Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. I tell you, folks, we've been off for a month, and gee whiz, it's been good. We've been very relaxed and the like, and we've got a lot of work to be had here. There's a lot of things going. As you know, we're right into the summer months and this, that, and the other. And the biggest thing on our plate, if you will, are the activities, if you will, of what happens, if you will, on the street. In most cases, we got a lot of things talking about the whole issue of police. We just had a shooting here in the Portland metropolitan area. A young kid basically was just, out there, and he just fired off some rounds up in the crowd here, and some art showed up here in Northeast Portland. And a kid. Yeah. So anyway, but the bottom line is that we'll probably go a little bit more into that. But what we're going to do, we're going to start focusing, if you will, on some main issues that are affecting us all. I'm not going to get into national issues at this point in time, but one issue that we're very, very much interested in is the whole issue of law enforcement. You know, police work. You know, we've been bombarded, if you will, by the East Coast about shootings and police work and this, that, and the other. And so we're fortunate. So we're going to be fortunate this time around. We've got a gentleman with me that I've known for a number of years, but at the same time, he's been in an area, been employed, if you will, by Portland as a peace officer with the Portland Police for about 17 years.
Yes, sir.
About 17 years. I'm talking about Don Dupay, who's sitting here right near on my right and on your left, if you're looking at the show. And Don just recently wrote a book. He just wrote a book, Behind the Badge in River City. Boy, what an exciting book. I tell you, I read it. And I read it front to cover, to back. I mean, it was an enjoyable book. And so I really appreciate the fact that he dotted the I's and crossed the T's for me. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you an opportunity to share that. But the bottom line, like he told me once before, before he got here, he said, Bruce, I'll come on, you read the book. And boy, I tell you, he did the right thing. He really did the right thing, because there were some things there that I had to just look at myself, and all of a sudden it was a good book to read. It was an easy read, if you will, and especially the fact that he had names of people that I was familiar with, and places, etc. And that during that time that I was here, right out of the Marine Corps, it was very, very interesting. So anyway, so you're going to have quite a time here with me today with Don Dupay, my friend Don Dupay. Don, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, Bruce. I'm enjoying being here. And
Good. But what we're going to do, I'll tell you what we're going to do. What I did, just to make sure that we get right down to the meat of the matter, so rather than I doing all the talking, I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking. We put down some questions here that I'm going to be asking, and we're just going to go through them, and then periodically I might stop you for a moment.
Sure.
And just get a little bit more of it. Okay, so again, Don Dupay, give us just a quickly background in terms of the years you were on Portland Police, and just a little upfront, how you got on the force, and just go through a little flow.
I got out of the U.S. Navy in 1959, and I joined the Portland Police in 1961 in April. I took all the tests, passed the psychiatrist, got myself buffed up so I could pass the physical exam, and joined. In 1961, they did not have a police academy right off the bat, so I was able to work the street in a suit because I didn't even have a uniform.
Really? They didn't let you know your uniform?
No, I wore a suit, and I had a long barrel 38 like Elliot Ness.
Was that an issue?
No, I had to buy my own.
You had to buy your own gun?
Had to buy my own gun. And we worked for about 10 days before I was able to get a voucher to get a uniform. But I'm probably the only one of the few living policemen that actually worked in the Albina district.
Wow.
In 1961.
And that's Northeast Portland.
That's Northeast Portland, okay. Williams Avenue. It used to be called Union Avenue.
Right. Now
MLK, the Albina district. I actually worked the riots in 1967. That's in the book. There's a lot of stuff in the book about my time on the police department that is descriptive of the times, because things have changed quite a bit. Some of the laws have changed.
Okay. Okay.
One of the things is now commonly police officers, they handcuff people just to make sure of their own safety. That wasn't allowed when I was a policeman. If you weren't under arrest, we couldn't handcuff you. And if you weren't under arrest, we couldn't search you either. There was none of the stop and frisk, pat down stuff in those days. So we took our chances. We did the best we could.
Well, did that change during the time that you were on the force?
It did not change.
It didn't
no.
change.
It did
so
not
for 17
change.
years. That's
17
basically what it
years.
is.
Well, my time on the street from 1961 to 1967, that part never changed. When I became a detective in 1967, then I'm not sure what exactly happened on the street, because in the meantime, the Miranda situation had come along where we had to advise people of their rights. So things began to change from
Was
Miranda.
that a good thing? Was that a good
Miranda
thing?
on.
Was
I
that
think
a
it
good
was a
thing?
good thing.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
The police didn't think it was a good idea because they were put, well, now, if I tell you you don't have to talk to me, then you're not. But ultimately, it really didn't make any difference, because there seems to be a human nature, the compulsion to confess. So whether I advise you of your rights or not and tell you you don't have to talk to me, you're going to talk to me because you want to. I'm going to be nice enough to you that you want to talk to me. I'm the good guy. Tell me what you did wrong, Bruce.
I got you. Will I? Well, look, I tell you what. I don't want to get too much in your book, because I want these folks to buy the book, because it's really an enjoyable read. It's a very enjoyable read. And what I want to do is I'm going to get into these questions aspect of it.
Sure.
Because the issues that we're having with police now today, I mean, we got to solve the problem one way or the other. Because in all due respect, at the end of the day, we want public service. Everybody is identified in public service, and the force is really the people's force.
It is.
It's a people's force aspect of it. And I can still remember on the cars they used to have Portland's Finest, or on all cars for that matter, and Protect and Serve.
Right.
Or was it Serve and Protect? Which was it? Protect and Serve.
Protect and Serve.
Protect and Serve. You know what I mean? And that had a lot of meaning to the public from that standpoint aspect of it. Okay.
Well,
so,
Bruce explained there's a lot of stuff in the book, and I call it stuff.
Stuff. Okay.
And this is some of the stuff.
Good. So you like the
some of
question.
the stuff is in
So
the
let's
book.
go down these. Let's get down to this stuff.
Okay.
Okay. First off, community policing has been a buzzword for 50 years. 50 years.
At least.
Can community policing ever work? Is it realistic, and can it be done in Portland? First, define what is community policing from an officer standpoint.
Community policing is getting out of your police car, walking a beat, talking to people. You get to know the officer on the corner because he's there all the time. That's what community policing is, talking to people, not riding around in a patrol car. Will it ever work? It never has worked. And the reason it never has worked is because it's expensive.
Expensive in what way?
It's expensive because you got a guy on the street, he's walking around, he can't cover a lot of territory. And you got a guy in a car, he can cover more territory, but he's not available. So getting people out of the car, letting them walk around, has always been too expensive to implement. And so that puts it to the point where it's just a buzzword. It's a buzzword. We talk about community policing, but we're never going to do it because it's too expensive.
But think about it now. Community policing, if they said you got to set areas, one, how many officers are assigned to that area, and are they assigned? So let's say you got these divided into 4 areas. Let's say, do you have a specialist in each of those areas, in those 4 areas, and kind of get a sense of knowing people within that particular areas?
My district was from Fremont to Killingsworth,
Okay.
and from the river to 15th Street.
Okay.
That's quite a geographic area, but really very small, actually.
Okay.
We did get out of the car. We did walk around a lot, my partner and I. But
You get to know people. You got
you
to
get to
some
know
folks?
people. Yeah, I got to know the people at Van's Olympic Room, King's Tavern, Paul's Paradise, the Theme Tavern, the Red
You
Sands.
mentioned Paul Knowles.
Paul Knowles, yes, Paul Knowles of Paul's
He's
Paradise.
identified as the mayor of the Northeast Portland.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Paul's quite a guy.
So those were the times where if you're going to do community policing, you're going to need more than 2 guys running around in that
More than
area.
2 guys, okay.
You're going to need more than 2. You're going to need 5 or 6.
Okay.
You're going to have maybe 2 or 3 walking on Williams Avenue, checking the bars, because those are the dangerous places in those days.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I mean, they were dangerous.
In what way?
I can remember the time when King's Tavern was so dangerous. There was a shooting, a stabbing, usually once a week. My partner and I went in there often and got into trouble a couple of times. So there was a time where we didn't go in there without 3 policemen. That's how
Where's the
dangerous
physical location? Let's say today.
King's Tavern was on Williams Avenue, somewhere in the vicinity of Skidmore Street.
Skidmore. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay.
That's where it
good.
was.
All right.
Van's Olympic Room was another hot spot on the corner of Vancouver and Fremont,
Okay.
and was quite dangerous. There was a lot of heavy-duty drug dealing in and out of there. There was prostitution in and out of there. I got into trouble there one night working vice. Almost had to shoot my way out of the place. The guy that operated the place, Leroy Clark, was actually killed in there by the SWAT team.
Wow.
in later on in years. And so it was just a dangerous place. The whole atmosphere of Williams Avenue and the Albina District in those days was dangerous. It was just dangerous.
Did you see any solutions? Did you see any of the so-called leaders and let's say elected politicians? Were they aware of that situation?
I think, of course, they were aware. I don't remember who the mayor was, but the police department, they were not conducive to helping us out a lot. We had a rule that says you could not have anything in your gun except factory loaded 38 round nose bullets. And we had 6 in the gun and 6 backup. So we went to work with 12 rounds. Now they go to work with 50 rounds.
50 rounds.
At least 50, because there's 14 in the Glock, and they got 2 more clips of 14 each. And so there's a lot more firepower. What we did to eliminate that nonsense, because here we got Don McNamara, who's the chief of police, telling me I can't be as well armed as the guy on the street. So what we did is we hand loaded our own ammunition. We went home and we put as much powder and lead as we could stand in the gun. I didn't have a Magnum, but I had a 38, and we loaded up the ammunition to the point where, bam, just about blow up a gun.
Was that a violation, though?
Of course it was a violation.
Okay.
It was a violation of a...
Everybody was doing it?
Everybody was doing it. And some of the guys actually did carry Magnums in violation of the procedures.
Okay.
But we had to do that to protect ourselves.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. But that was always... You basically said that to the chain of command.
Yes.
And told them what the problem was. Did it go all the way back to the chief, if you will, like the mayor? I mean, that's...
No, they didn't care. This was a rule, and you did it, and you did it. Policemen have always protected themselves against the structure.
The structure.
The command structure. We don't care what it is you say. We're going to protect ourselves. And so we did.
Well, they should have been aware of that situation, though, as far as the command structure.
I'm sure they were aware, but I'm not sure
they were on the street
cared.
at one point in time.
But then when they were on the street, it was a little different too, many years before.
Okay.
So when Don McNamara was a cop on the street, it was a different story. There weren't all those rules and regulations. So
okay, all right, we did. Anything else on community policing you may want to? Should we do this today? I mean, should there be community policing?
Yes, there should be community policing. Will it ever happen? No.
It won't happen. No. Interesting.
Not unless you increase the budget.
Yeah,
and put on 1,000 more policemen.
Okay.
And get rid of all these police cars.
Okay. Oh, get rid of the cars.
Get rid of the cars.
Get them out on the beat. Walk on the beat.
Get them out on the beat. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Has reducing weight, height and weight requirements been a good thing? You know, we did that transitioning thing. During your time when you were there, when you first got on, was there sort of a standard height and weight?
You had to be 5'8".
Okay.
And weight and height in relation to height. You couldn't be any shorter than 5'8". And when the affirmative action rules came down, it destroyed that. It said that anybody can be a policeman if you're 5'2".
5'2".
Yeah. The problem with that, Bruce, and let's be realistic about this, is everybody out here on TV has heard of the Napoleonic complex. The shorter the man, the more authoritative they are, and that's Napoleon. So you get a lot of short guys. Sorry, officers. You get a lot of short guys that are made even more. It affects their personality more when you take a short guy that's 5'3" and you put him in a uniform and give him a badge and a gun. Now he's more easily becoming a tyrant. So that's what you get. It's been a terrible mistake. They should never. They should go back to the old rules.
5'8".
Yeah, at least 5'8". I think that Washington State Patrol officers are all very tall. They're 6 foot or so. I don't know how they manage to avoid that.
And what's that rationale? For
You're big and you're tall.
Okay, so it's a deterrent, so to speak.
A policeman should never have to look up to a suspect. It just isn't right. You need to look down on somebody that you're arresting. You need to be in charge. Bigger is better.
Some say today people, a lot of officers shoot first before they shoot first to react to whether the issues or whatever. What do you think about that?
Well,
are we having more shootings? Are we having more shootings now than we were during that day?
Yes, and for several reasons. One of the reasons is you got more ammunition.
Well, more than 50 rounds.
You got 50 rounds.
Yeah.
So you can fire off 8 or 10 rounds, and they do. We only had 6 rounds. And the first thing I learned is you make the first one count. To hell with the other 5. Because reloading a revolver is a problem. It takes time.
Now tell me about this. Is it a shoot to kill? I mean, when you think about the Clint Eastwood thing and maybe shoot the leg or something.
No, you can't do that.
You can't do it? Why is that?
Because it's just not practical.
It's not practical. Okay.
You have to shoot until the threat no longer exists. And that's the only thing that makes any sense. I can tell you a story about a man that was shot with a .357 Magnum. His heart was completely blown up. I know that because I went to the autopsy. He didn't have a heart. And he'd been shot at about 10 feet away with a .357. Did he fall down and die? No. He was standing in front of a tavern. He opened the tavern door. He walked in. He walked around 2 pool tables, headed back toward where the restrooms are located before he finally fell down. If he'd have had a gun, he could have kept shooting. He could have been shooting. He could have been dangerous. So the only thing that makes any sense is to shoot until the threat no longer exists.
And that's the training.
Now,
that's the training.
That's the training, and there's nothing in the law about a warning shot. You can't just bang, bang, stop or I'll shoot. You can't do that. And to try and shoot somebody in the leg, it's just not practical.
Okay. Now that's part of training, right?
That's part of training.
That's the sign off. That's the sign off. Now, as we the people, we're represented by the mayor, right? Basically elected officials. We sign off on that kind of training, right? This is not something that you guys do on your own, right? Am I fair? Am I right?
That's right.
Okay. We need that. That's a point that I think that really I came out of the book that I saw, and from the standpoint, who's in charge? You know what I mean? Are the police in charge, or are the people in charge?
Yeah.
The people that normally are in charge, right? Through the elected officials. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one of the problems, and I'm going to mention it here, is, and you're talking about the command people, the people who make these rules, is they allow these officers to carry automatic pistols.
Okay.
One of the problems with automatic pistols, and you can check on YouTube on how to clear a Glock. I don't want to know how to clear a Glock. I just want it to shoot. So automatic pistols jam. That's the nature of the beast. And if you only carry a pistol, if you only use it one time in your life, and it jams on you, you're in trouble. So I wouldn't allow any of my policemen to carry automatic pistols. I'd go back to revolvers, which never misfire and will never let you down. Now you're going to get a lot of arguments about that from guys that want to fire out bang, 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 bang. But it's wrong.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's wrong.
What about this? What should be the role of women in police work? Now that's a pretty tough one. I know that's a pretty tough one there, buddy.
That's part of the stuff that's in the book.
That's pretty. I know it is. But what do you say? Just on the surface, what do you think about women on the police force? When you were going, when you were there,
When I joined the police department, they had what they called the Women's Protective Division, and basically women were social workers. If we had a child that was lost or a problem like that, if we had to have a woman come to a situation, we were able to call the Women's Division.
okay, there was a women's.
There
division.
there was a
So they
women's
were
division.
on. Yeah,
They were here, but they weren't allowed to ride around in police cars, and they weren't allowed to wear a blue uniform. I personally think that that's a mistake. That's
Why-
just
why
my
is that?
personal.
What do you think?
Because a woman doesn't belong in a police car. A woman is not as strong as a man. They put themselves in more danger, and then when you add a one-man car or a one-woman car, now you got a problem.
The one.
The word that was when I was on the street was, if I got a woman in the district next to me and she gets a call, now I got to go protect her. Or if she's coming to me, if she's coming to work to back me up, now I got the same problem I had in the first place. Now I got her to worry about. I got her to worry about. So I just don't think that women should be as involved in the street process of police work as they are now. No, I'm sorry.
All right, let's see.
Call me old-fashioned, Bruce.
Well, hey,
But I think that's wrong.
I was in the Marine Corps. We sort of had some similar kind of. It's paramilitary kind of.
Yes.
Too. And it's a very dangerous situation. Are one-man cars practical or even safe, and how has that change impacted current officers' safety? The
One-man cars was, I think, a feeble attempt at spreading the wealth, if you want. Community policing, you can have more people out if you put them in cars, but that has never worked. You get a call, you send a cop, backup's going to show up. So that car who's supposed to be out there doing something else is not doing something else. He's backing me up. And that leads to policemen getting hurt as well as citizens getting hurt, because there are words that should never, ever come out of a policeman's mouth is, I'm waiting for backup.
No.
I'm waiting for backup. Never. Baloney. I should never have to wait for backup. You don't send a single soldier into a combat.
No, we don't.
You don't. Why do you send a single policeman into a war zone? It's economic.
But wasn't that discussed during your era, your time?
Yes.
But why didn't it change?
I don't know.
But hey,
I don't know. There's a
you
lot
know
of
the chain of command. I mean,
there's
you
a
can
lot
tell
of there's a lot of conversation about one-man cars, and I've always thought it was wrong. It's just not safe. It's not safe for the public.
Yeah. Okay.
How many people? You can talk about Mike Brown. He was shot because Officer Wilson was waiting for backup. He shouldn't have been waiting for backup. No.
Okay. What is the single most important thing in police work? If I were to ask you that question, what would you say?
Integrity, Bruce. Integrity.
What does that mean?
Integrity means
it's a big word now.
Integrity means that you're not going to lie on police reports. You're not going to embellish the police report. You're not going to lie for a fellow officer. You're not going to fudge on the honesty of an affidavit for a search warrant, which was common in my day. Common. I mean, the first thing I learned, and it's in the book, is how to lie on a police report, and how important getting your 12 traffic movers a month was, and somehow honesty in police reports wasn't important. It was the 12 moving violations that you had to get that made a difference. What happened to the guy that you said,
A lot of folks were doing that.
yeah, doing on the street. I can relate a short story that's in the book which demonstrates the point.
You got to get the book. They got to get the book. It was a good point you made too.
Yeah.
Well, what about a degreed officer? The difference between a degreed officer and a non-degreed officer. Let's say one had an associate degree or didn't have, or just high school education or whatever, a high school diploma. Maybe he spent 2 years in the military and he's out. What do you think? Do we
Well, the better educated the police officer, the better.
Okay.
But having said that, they don't teach common sense in college. And if you don't have common sense, you can't be a policeman. And common sense, I don't know where it comes from, but it doesn't come from college. So if you don't have common sense, you're wasting your time as a policeman.
Should that be included in there?
Huh?
Is there any way of identifying common sense in the interview?
I don't know how you identify common sense. You just know it when you see it. Common sense is not common. That's common. That's what they say.
I got you. Oh wait, what about this one here? This is going to be a good one thing here. Has arresting prostitute ever been effective? And we've been having prostitutional situations for years, and they're saying that prostitute will never stop. I mean, but what about?
Well, we arrested prostitutes when I was first on the vice squad in the early '60s. I've always thought it was a ridiculous waste of time. First place, I don't believe in arresting prostitutes.
Mm-hmm. Why is that, though?
Well, I think that if there was a solution to the problem of prostitution, if it is a problem, and I'm not sure it is, somebody a couple thousand years ago would have figured it out. You know, we wouldn't still be having stings where we trap the poor guy or the poor girl into thinking, you know, I'm really not a policeman. That goes back to the morality of vice work too, is lying about it. You know, you're working vice, you go into a bar, you're trying to pick up a girl. Are you a policeman? No, I'm not a cop. I'm a logger from out of town. You're lying. So when you get into vice work, lying is how you do your work. When you're in uniform, you're upfront about it. I'm a policeman, here I am, it's my uniform, I'm a cop. I'm not lying about nothing. But when you talk about vice, it's a whole different situation. It brings up this morality issue of what should I be doing this? One of the things that we had to do when I worked for Carl Crisp, who was a vice commander at that time, my partner and I, we got $25 drinking money.
$25 drinking money.
$25 drinking money, and that was our job. Was sent to do something. You go out and you go to the Globe Theater and see how many gay people you can arrest, or you go to this bar and you see how many prostitutes you can arrest. And so you're sitting there in the bar and you're drinking.
Okay.
And then you go out and get into your police car and drive to the next bar. Oh my God, you're drinking and you're driving. Should a policeman be drinking and driving and then arresting somebody too?
Jeez.
A couple of days before that, I'm a traffic cop. It's my job to arrest people who are driving and drinking. That's the morality, the whipsaw part of it that I never could resolve in myself.
So folks who were drinking while they were doing that kind of work, could they resist the whole issue of alcoholism or something? Did you see any problems with that?
At first, it sounded like a dream job.
Yeah.
You know, I get to go out and drink on company money.
Yeah.
But after a while, and a short while, oh my God, I got to go drink again tonight. Oh my God, I got to go drink again tonight. That really got to be
the job's already stressed.
That was stress alone. And then you've been drinking all night, and then you're going to drive home at 4 in the morning.
Wow. What impact does this have, if you will, on just doing your regular job like police work?
Well, it distorts it, that's for sure. Are you being honest about what you're doing? Should you be arresting somebody when you're drunk? Should you be arresting somebody when you're high? No, I don't think so.
This is a tough job.
It's a tough job, Bruce.
It's a tough job.
It's a tough job.
And somebody has to do it, right?
Somebody has to do it, yeah. I'm glad that there are still young and naive people who want to do it, because if you don't come into the job with that kind of naivety, that idealism, and to begin with, then you're going to burn out in a hurry. So, because you will burn out.
That's a good point about the burnout aspect of it. How long can a person work on a job like this without being burned out? I mean, what do you do? I mean, can you spend 20 years on a job like this?
No, and you shouldn't have to. Because I've always said that they ought to retire policemen after 15 years.
15 years? 15
years, yeah. Because after 15 years, you're grouchy, you're burnt out, you don't really care. And so what service are you providing? You're much better off to give the guy a good retirement because he did his time and send him off and let somebody new come in and let them burn out.
That's a tough job.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's too tough to keep.
Are they doing that? Were they
30
doing that?
years? Anybody that can stay with a job is 30 years has got to be divorced, a drunk, an addict,
wow,
and a candidate for a heart attack.
Wow.
Too many policemen die just a short time after they retire. They don't get to enjoy their retirement. It's too tough.
That's a tough job.
It's a tough job.
You know, we're getting ready to take a short break, but as you know, as we're going along, we're going to do more of this. But the bottom line is that I wanted to make sure you get this side of what it takes to be a cop.
Yeah.
And wearing that badge and wearing that uniform and the stress and all the kinds of things you have. It's just not normal life in many ways.
No.
And so this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show, and really I want to thank Don for being here and sharing this with us. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and Don, we're going to...
Okay.
You mind? You okay?
I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll take a short break, folks, and we'll be right back.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
Welcome back, folks. Again, I'm Bruce Broussard with Voters Digest. I'm the host today, and I've got Don Dupay with me. We're learning about police work and what are they doing, and the work itself, you know, and the involvement. I mean, this is some heavy stuff. And here we are, we're playing the old divide line, the them against us type routine. And I wanted to do this show, and I'm so glad that Don is here because to give you the other side for a change.
Mm-hmm.
Give you the other side. This is not trying to be anti any particular person in the department who spent their years and their life, if you will, and getting into their personal life. There's a lot of personal things. No one wants to share those kinds of things. But I think it's very important right now because we're sort of at a crisis right now. You know, it's a them against us type of routine, and I think you need to hear this other side because we can't really start solving the problem if we don't know where we've been.
That's right.
If we don't know where we've been, how can we go forward? So this is what we're talking about, and it's not basically taking any sides. It's just here. This is a real cop. This guy's been on the force. He's been around. He's here, and he happened to be a vet too. By the way, he had some good thoughts about, hey, I want to be a policeman back in those early days, and that's what he wanted to do. And he burned out.
I burned out.
He just burned out, you know, and here he is today, but he's sharing it with us, and I think this is very, very important. And so hopefully you'll go out and you'll buy the book and read it yourself and dot the I's and cross the T's, because especially those who are really in charge. We are in charge. The people are in charge, and the way we're in charge, we elect officials, if you will, to do the job. And in the city of Portland, it's the mayor of the city of Portland, and then the mayor today is Charlie Hale. He's in charge. So he's responsible, if you will. The mayor's position is responsible for what happens, if you will, if it's bad or good, one way or the other. He's in charge, and that needs to really come across home. I really want you to understand it. I understand it, especially now that I've spent the time. Besides, like I say, I've spent the time a lot. I've been in the military before. It's paraprofessional kind of a deal. In fact, at one point in time, I thought I'd want to be a cop myself. But boy, after talking to Don, I said, I don't know whether or not I'd been sitting here today. You know, I remember Smitty, a guy that I used to know in the police department when I knew him real well when I was a Marine and I was recruiting over here off of Union Avenue at the time on Shaver and MLK. And Smitty tried to get me when I got out of the Marine Corps to come on the force. But by George, I tell you, I don't know. But now I have second thoughts now. But anyway, we've been discussing police work with Don, and we're just kind of filling you in, okay? And make sure
one of the things that has always been involved in police work, and it gets worse as you are there longer, is the we they.
The we they.
Us them.
Yeah.
You know, because after a while, as a policeman, you begin to think everybody's got an angle. Everybody's a little bit crooked. And the truth of it is, that's not true. There are a lot of good people. There are a lot of wonderful people. So you get this, police work gives you that slant, that negative slant that says, well, everybody's got an angle, so I got to watch out. I got to protect myself from
where did it come from?
Them.
Where does that come from?
It comes from experience. It comes from experience.
Okay.
It comes from being around people who do have that angle, and not being, since a policeman are not in contact with the ministers and the good guys, you're seeing the negativity, and that negativity.
So everybody looks the same.
Everybody looks the same. Everybody's got an angle because you know it, because you arrested it before, and so you don't get to see the good side of these people. So you get that slant, and that slant is part of your stress.
Okay.
That slant is part of what contributes to your burnout. I'm sick of you guys. I'm going to go get drunk.
Good point. Now, we hear this business about profiling. That's come out. And a lot of times people tend to identify that from the standpoint of blacks. As, the police are profiling black folks only, so to speak. But so what I'm hearing is that this culture is talking about, actually it's a profiling of everybody. Basically, just kind of it's a culture, right, so to speak. You're always aware, regardless of what area you're in. Am I right or not?
That's correct.
Okay.
Profiling is a word that's been kicked around for a long time, and I wrestle with the question about profiling. Is profiling bad, or is profiling good police work?
Okay. Talk to me.
If I'm riding around in my car or walking and I see something that I think is suspicious, am I profiling you because you're black?
Give us an example.
Or are you, or am I profiling you because you're white?
Okay.
I think the best example I can give is myself. I was profiled.
Okay.
I was stopped by a Multnomah County deputy sheriff about 4 years ago, and he stopped me not because I had come from a tavern. I was with my son, and he stopped me not because I was weaving or driving incorrectly. He stopped me because he wanted to see who was in a late model Cadillac with out-of-state license plates after dark. That's why he stopped me. Is that profiling? Well, yeah, it is. But he was doing his job. He needed to know who's in his district, who's in that car, and what are they doing.
So the bad guys are always driving Cadillacs.
Well,
White on black.
it seems to be.
Is that the deal?
It seems to be. So the same thing is when I was a policeman. If I'm working from Fremont to Killingsworth and from the river to 15th, and you drive through my district, I'm going to know who you are. That's my job. I want to know what your license number is. If you have a record, what's your mugshot? I'm going to stop you because I need to know who's in my district doing what. Is that profiling? Probably. Is it good police work? I think so.
Okay.
So it's a slippery slope, Bruce.
Okay.
It's a slippery slope.
Okay.
But for the
it's
most
part
part,
of the job.
it's part of the job.
Okay.
It's part of the job.
Okay. Here's another one. There was this business about tasering folks. You see a lot of times you see people tasering folks or whatever. But I thought this would be a good one. Since tasers have been declared electronic torture devices, I want you to share. I want to explain that. By Amnesty International, why are they still being used? Is that today?
That's today.
First, when did it come on board? Did it come on board during your time?
No, we never had tasers.
You never had tasers?
We didn't have tasers. We didn't have mace.
No mace?
No. It was hands-on. Tasers are just short-handled cattle prods, is what they are. And when you pull the trigger on that, it goes snap, crackle, and pop. Scary thing. And just doing that scares people. I don't think tasers should ever be used. When I ran for sheriff in 2006, one of my platforms was, I will get rid of tasers. The high sheriff of Multnomah County will not allow tasers in Multnomah County. I would have had a ceremonial burning. I would have invited the ACLU, and we would have burned them all.
Interesting.
I think tasers should never be used. I know there's a lot of people who think, well, it saves lives. I can tase you rather than shoot you. Nonsense. Police work got done, and it got done every day before we had tasers, before we had mace. Police work got done. How did it ever happen?
You mentioned the point when I asked you that question. You said hands-on.
Hands-on.
What do you mean by hands-on? What do you mean? You just had to do the job.
You couldn't rely on technology.
Okay.
I couldn't stand 6 feet away from me and spray you with some mace. I couldn't stand 15 feet away and shoot you with a taser. I had to decide if you're committed a crime, if you're going to jail. I grabbed you and took you into custody. That's all there is to it.
Now you had what, slapsticks?
We had saps.
Yes, sir, you had
We had saps.
What was a sap? What was that?
Sap is a lead-weighted smacker. Is what
Right.
it is.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just, you know,
okay.
and we also used sap gloves, which were
Okay.
lead-weighted gloves.
Okay,
Which
okay.
protected your hands
Okay.
and also gave you more.
So you wouldn't shoot first. You just
No, we
go
didn't
on
shoot first.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Shooting. We didn't shoot people in those days like they do now. Today, if a cop is threatened by a knife, the first thing they do is tase him or shoot him. I was threatened by lots of guys with knives. I never shot one of them. So, no.
That's a good point.
Tasers are electronic torture devices, and they should be eliminated immediately.
Now, another issue, the idea is that when a person who's telling the truth, if you will, before the judge or whatever, you got until the idea of you think that there will ever be honesty in police report writing?
Never,
Why is that?
because the philosophy of the police is that it doesn't make any difference what you did. It's what I tell the judge you did. That's what's important, and that's what's going to be on my report. Because the judge is going to believe me, and it doesn't make any difference what you think. So that's the first thing that disappears, and it disappeared my first day on the job, is honesty in police report writing.
But where do we go wrong on that piece? I mean, the judge had to write. I mean, there had to be some policy making or something there.
Well,
Where do we go wrong on that whole issue?
where we go wrong is the judge takes at face value everything that the policeman says in a report.
Should he?
No,
Well, why is it?
because it's slanted. It's not correct. The first thing that disappears is the truth. So whether it's an affidavit for a search warrant, or it's I say that you jaywalked and you didn't, it's that basic honesty that just disappears, and it's just the nature of the beast.
As
There
police
will
go-
never be honesty in police report writing. Every report that you see is going to be embellished or slanted toward the officer's favor.
But what about internal affairs? That's what they were supposed to be doing. I mean, they're supposed to be checking that thing out. I mean, you know what I mean? We got a police review board. I mean, what's up?
I'm laughing. Internal affairs is the worst disaster ever inflicted upon the people for a number of reasons. Number one, the 14th Amendment says that equal justice for all. That's what it says, equal justice for all. It doesn't say the electricians can have their own police department, their own justice system. It doesn't say the plumbers can have their own justice system. And it certainly doesn't say the policemen can have their own justice system. And that's exactly what internal affairs is. It's their own justice system. Because if you mess up as a policeman, internal affairs are going to decide if you made a mistake. They're going to assess a penalty, and that's what the judge does. The penalty is usually suspension from duty for 30 days or something like that. So they've assessed a monetary penalty, and they decided you're guilty. That's illegal. Plain and simple illegal. Now, it's in the union contract that you can do that.
Do what? What's it?
Internal affairs is in the union contract. How can a union contract have something that violates the 14th Amendment to the Constitution? That needs to be stopped, and needs to be stopped immediately. Again, when I ran for sheriff, that was one of my platforms. I would have the county attorney immediately file a lawsuit in federal court stopping internal affairs because it's simply illegal.
Another question that comes up all the time, you know, people say it all the time. So, well, gee whiz, a person shoots a guy or does something wrong or whatever, and all of a sudden they get off with paid leave.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Well, paid leave is probably not the best word. Because it sounds like you get a vacation if you shoot somebody.
Yeah, but that's what normally people say. I say that raw. So,
Yeah,
what do you
not-
think about that? And why they do that?
Well, one of the things that they do wrong is they allow a policeman 48 hours
Yeah.
to get their story straight.
To get their story straight.
Get their story straight. That's right. And that's against any best practices for investigative work. If I arrest two burglars, the first thing I'm going to do is separate them. Now you don't get to talk to each other. You don't get to get your story straight. You get two policemen in a car and they shoot somebody or they screw up somehow. Oh, they get 48 hours to get their story straight. What?
Get together?
Get together? No, It's wrong. It's not in any.
And it's not good for.
It's not good.
It's not good police work.
Not good police work.
Yeah.
It's bad for the citizens who have to suffer because of it. It's not best practices in investigative work at all.
But my point is that you can't pretty well tell you what's going to happen when you get into, i.e., apprehending the person.
You can't tell.
You know what I'm saying? My point is that, but after it's done, why can't you just write it down just the way it happened?
Because you'd be snitching on your partner. Or your partner might be snitching on you if you did something wrong.
Do they feel as if they're going to get fired too if they all of a sudden
There's always that possibility they're afraid that they're liable to get fired or they're going to lose 30 days pay. They're going to get suspended.
It's
and
about the eats.
It's about the eating.
It's about the eating.
It's
You got to
about
eat.
the money.
You got to eat. It's about the money. But they got to eat. But they weren't paid during your time.
No.
They weren't paid during your time, right?
No.
But now they're not being paid now. But not,
We didn't have administrative leave if we shot somebody. I never shot anybody. We didn't have that. No.
Wow. Now let's talk about command structure. Now this is a question: is the command structure at Portland Public, I'll give you this Portland Public School, Portland Police Bureau, heavy? In other words, are there too many in the administration and not enough cops on the street?
Well, absolutely. I'm still trying to figure out what police lieutenants do. I've never been able to figure that out. Each precinct has a captain. Each captain has his own personal police car. Each captain has their own secretarial staff. Do we need, I don't know how many there are now, Bruce. When I was a cop, there was probably 11 or 12 captains. Now I'm sure there's more than that. And in those days, a police captain made maybe 30 or 40,000 a year. Now they make 3 times that much. And so they're highly paid, and they need to be. They need to go back to kind of a military rule of how many people you can supervise. If a sergeant can supervise 4 or 5, a lieutenant can supervise 8 or 10. You know, and then the captain's got all of the guys in the precinct that he supervises. There's just too many of them. They need to get rid of a lot of the people in the command structure and put policemen back on the street. We need policemen on the street. I don't need captains sitting up there figuring out what I did wrong.
How much time do you think an officer should be on the street before they get maybe even considered to be an officer?
An officer?
Yeah, in the police force.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean
I'm
by
talking
that.
like a sergeant. I'm just saying.
Well,
a person gets promoted. You know, a lot of times, a lot of these folks are just educated. I mean, they're well educated. You know, they can pass tests. Some people can pass tests. Some people can't. I'm not.
I think that you need at least 5 years experience in order to if you don't have 5 years experience, you're not a veteran officer, and you shouldn't be allowed to take a test for promotion until you're a veteran. Until you've had enough
on the street,
experience. On the street, being on the
That
street.
makes sense. Are most of them that way? You think?
Well, not nowadays. They've lowered the time required for promotional exam to 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. It was 5 years when I was a policeman, and I think that's a good thing. They should go back to it. With 3 years on, your probation's 1.5 years. So how much experience do you have before you can take a test to be sergeant? The other problem is that men that are good police officers are often not good test takers. People that are good test takers are sometimes not very good policemen. And I find that command structure, when I was there, was rampant with that. Guys who were good test takers and never really very good policemen.
But they got promoted.
They got promoted because they took the tests and they were able to pass them. You know.
So I tell you what, we got about maybe 5 or 6 minutes. I'd like for you to share with with the public, i.e., the public, i.e., the leaders. I mean, the actual the people who are supposed to be in the leadership role, who are very concerned about public safety. They want public safety and whatever. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like for you to say something to them about what do you think about what can you say to them about what is good police work, and what should they be looking for, and one in the police, and i.e. the leader?
Police work needs to be more open and more transparent. And it's not because the police officers aren't, they're not held responsible to the citizens that they work for. I don't know of any other job where you're not responsible to your employers. If you mess up on a regular job, your boss has to deal with you. You mess up on the police department, internal affairs and or the union steps in to protect you against your employers, the city. And then the people are always saying, well, no matter what happens, the police never are found accountable. And that's the problem, because there's not enough transparency. And where does that go? That goes right to the mayor. That goes right to the mayor, who is either afraid of the union, or doesn't want to tackle the union, who doesn't want to attack the structure that permits that. And so the transparency that's necessary can never be there the way that the structure is now, because the mayor is not the mayor. The mayor is a pawn, if you will, of the union. He needs the union support to get reelected.
So that's not public safety.
Public safety, yeah.
Now,
It's
what
not about public safety.
so what do you say to i.e. Your former comrades? Well, there's not too many people like they're living here today, but what do you say to the policeman that's out here on the street today? What do you say to the cop today?
Quit.
We said a couple of things here. We
Quit.
said a few things here. Huh?
Get out of law enforcement before it destroys you.
You say 15 years, right?
15 years is yeah. I wish I'd have stayed for 5 years, gone to law school, used that time to get a better education, and gone on with something else. Because here I am now, at my age, I have extreme PTSD. You know, and it really bothers me a lot of times. I can't still go by some of the areas in town where really terrible things happened. It was really painful for me in a lot of ways to write some of the stuff down in the book, because I had to relive the murders, the suicides, the heads blown off, that sort of thing. And that's the kind of stuff that will drive you crazy if you stay in police work that long. I don't know how anybody can survive 25 years of it. I don't know. They shouldn't. Quit. That's my advice. Young, idealistic guys, get out. Save your life. Find another job. I'm sorry. I found myself with that same trouble when I was teaching at the police academy. Here I am. How am I going to be honest with these young recruits and tell them the truth? That your life's work is an exercise in futility. How do you stand up there and tell them that unless you're honest about it? I'm sorry, son. Your life's work is an exercise in futility. I don't care how many burglars you arrest, there's going to be burglars. I don't care how many murderers you arrest, there's going to be murderers. I don't care how many thieves you catch, you're going to be thieves. And at the end of the year, what have I accomplished? Not much. Not much.
Can you raise a family in the police department, you think, in the police work?
I was able to raise a family, but then we were so low paid, my wife had to work all the time, so it took two incomes then. It probably does take two incomes now, because a lot of things are so much more expensive.
You mentioned PTSD. Now, you got a psych. You guys have a psych. I mean, they've always had a psych for police work. A person is having some problems, stressing out, this, that, and the other. He goes to them, and then after he gets out of the door, he's okay. He's fine.
No, we never had that. I never had that.
You had no psych?
There was no...
You had your own... What do you think about the psych?
The only people that I could go talk to was a police chaplain.
A chaplain?
The chaplain.
That's a psych.
And his name was Ed Stell, a wonderful man. He was the de facto counselor.
Did it help out?
Yeah, he helped me out a lot.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
But there was no stress pension.
No stress pension.
There was no way to get out unless you had a heart attack or died or served your time. I couldn't do it because my health was deteriorating so fast. I was afraid I was going to die. and that's why I had to leave the police department.
Well, you spent 17 years. You are getting a pension, I take it, right?
No, I don't get a pension.
You're not getting any pension.
I don't get a pension, no. I left, and I've never been sorry that I left because I'm here alive today. And a lot of these young fellows, they're not here, they're dead because they're stressed out. No, I don't get a pension. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Buy the book.
Wow, yeah, that's an interesting piece about that. I mean, I don't understand something. They pretty well knew that you were pretty well stressed out. A lot of these folks are stressed out aspect of it. And I'm getting into the book now a little bit.
Yeah, well,
you quit, but the bottom line is that you should have gotten the pension or something.
I should have got some kind of a pension. I always thought that 2 + 2 = 4. If I got PTSD from the police department,
Right.
and I did, I was diagnosed with it, then you owe me a pension.
Right, right.
And well, you didn't pay into the system. You didn't pay into the present system, so you don't get a pension. So there was a lot of politics involved at that time. Mm-hmm. Some of the people that are not named in the book were responsible for my not getting a pension.
Wow, wow. That's something you may want to review again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, folks, we have been spending the time with Don Dupay, and hopefully you've gotten a sort of a feel, an entree, if you will, before you read the book. If you got to get the book, I'm sure it'll dot the I's for you and fill in the blanks for at least someone, because we are in a crisis at this point in time.
We are.
We've got to get down to the point where we can talk about solutions. Mm-hmm. We do need public safety. We do need personnel, if you will, to cover that. We do need folks on the beat, if you will. We do need law enforcement, if you will. It's a very, very stressful job, and so consequently, these people have to be paid right. As far as I'm concerned, they need to be paid, and then the public need to understand that who is the leader and what is that leadership. It's a very situation. It's a tough situation. So, Don, I want to thank you very much for being here, and we're going to do this again.
Bruce, it's been my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to
great.
doing some more.
So please get out there and look at the Behind the Badge in River City. It's a very interesting book, and I think I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And like I said, hopefully you'll have a wow. I'm still annoyed by it. I mean, every time I pick up the paper, I'm thinking about Don Dupay and reading that book. But again, it's been a pleasure. Okay, Don?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, folks, that's it. Hopefully you'll learn this. Tell your friends. We do a repeat, this piece, and you can get on YouTube, too, and check it out. And we're going to be doing a little bit more with Don in the future, okay? Have a good evening. I'll see you next week. Take care. Have a good one.